Okay, testing sound. Good. Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Jake Langlis. I'm the superintendent of Lewiston Public Schools, and tonight we're having a town hall, but also creating this video that can be shared for future reference in regards to the Lewiston Public Schools FY26 budget. To walk through this, I've shared a newsletter that has both some information and also some highlights that recently came out of some spaces that you may have heard about. In looking at the budget proposal as of today, the school committee has approved a 3.44% increase on the local mill rate. And the math on that is 46 cents on the mill rate. So as people can notice, it's a far smaller request than we have had in recent years. Try to be mindful of what people have said at the ballot box, but also want everyone to go out and vote on May 13th, which I might say a few times. May 13th is the referendum vote, scheduled referendum vote, and voting will occur at Longley and be available from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We want to note that what was important to us in this budget is that we maintain our staff to the best of our ability. And this budget accounts for our staff that equates to 71% of the total budget and adds up to 95% of the requested increase overall. We often get questions around what percent of each article or what things we pay for. So this chart here, or this pie graph, shows each article with just a few words to explain it. For example, to the far right, you see Article 1, regular instruction, that represents 32.7% of our budget. That is in the blue. And so as you move around this pie chart, you can see that our largest costs are regular instruction, immediately followed by Article 2, special education, and Article 3, career and technical education. And so the main drivers, as we've shared, are our staff and the programs that we're running, primarily in regular instruction, special education, and also our technical center efforts. The proposed budget increase at the end of March represented in a breakdown. $1.12 are proposed out of the city. They continue to work on that budget. I don't know that it will land there. 23 cents from the county budget, and that process, to my knowledge, has already occurred. And so we have that as a known number. And again, 46 cents from the school proposed budget. That 46 cents may reduce. We received word recently that our healthcare percentage increase for next year's cost will be 3.3%. And we budgeted much more than that, thinking that the rates were going to come in high. And we heard it could be as high as almost 18%. And then they said they would cap it at 14%. We budgeted 10%, and it came in, as I said, at 3.3. So we have some savings there, but we also have some things that we are concerned about financially that we want to make sure we cover. On the 28th of April, we will be presenting recommendations to the school committee for what to do with those funds. And again, I anticipate some reduction to get below that 3.44% locally. Don't forget, the city council will continue to weigh on this. So April 28th is the next school committee vote. And May 6th, the city council will cast a vote, hopefully to approve the budget. We'll have another town hall if you have questions on May 12th, and then the 13th is the referendum. Another breakdown for how much money is in the budget as it relates to the articles. Here's just a chart breakdown, and you can see the amounts that are proposed in the current budget, totaling over $117 million. And we are fortunate in the city of Lewiston in the ways of which we get subsidy. Over $80 million of this budget is actually raised by state subsidy. And locally, we're asking for $31.3 million. That's not new, that's in whole. And our financial strategy this year was to reduce our use of fund balance. These are carryover funds that are diminishing. And if we continue to use them, we'll get to a place where we don't have them at all. And we would have to locally try to raise those dollars, and that would be a significant increase. However, if we plan smart over multiple years and we start to reduce how much we use, which we've been able to do in this budget, it'll put us in a position where fund balance is something that is responsible and used, not abused, and not a cliff. And so this year we reduced that amount by almost 37%, not quite half, but we've reduced how much fund balance we've used to create revenue for this budget significantly. Just want to also share some comparisons. The city of Portland has proposed a budget of $171 million. They have about 500 more kids than we do here in Lewiston. Lewiston, our proposed budget is 117 million. It's 117.1, and we have 6,070 kids on our enrollment. And believe it or not, the third largest district in Maine, from the data that I could find, was Bangor, and their budget is 63.2 million, but they have 2,600 less kids than we have. I'd also add that the levels of need from multilingual, special ed, and other learning opportunities that we provide students here in Lewiston, we have some greater needs, but we also have some pretty spectacular outcomes. We often get asked about our goals and the things that we're working on as a school department or Lewis Public Schools. We do have our comprehensive needs assessments and our plans that go with our title funding. Those are reviewed annually, and we can make those available if you wish. But that is full of goals that are informed by best practice, data, and other study. But I did want to share three things. One area of focus that we've taken this year is our CLIMB program. And this is a focus on high needs students that we've prior years been paying tuition for them to go elsewhere. We've had to reimburse other schools for services provided, and we have to pay for their transportation to go to and from. And I think most importantly, they're not at school with their peers, with their neighbors. And so we are working to bring those students back, which will deflect cost or is already deflecting cost, but also give them a better experience. And what we're hearing from staff and other kids and parents and families right now is that this is working. Kids are happy. They're a joy to have in the building. Right now, they're at McMahon in their own wing, and we continue to look for ways to grow that programming. As of last week, serving 24 students, and it's, I think, 25 this week. There's fluctuations with kids in and out, but these are 20 plus kids that we would otherwise spend. We estimate around $4 million to go to school elsewhere. And we have spent about $2 million to stand this program up. So when we look at it from a responsibility perspective on our enrollment, we've been able to deflect about $2 million in cost. And we're providing a better experience for students. We anticipate this will continue to grow. We continue to outplace over 100 students, and our goal is to get as many of those students back to Lewiston Public Schools as we possibly can. I have been getting questions about enrollment because we've topped that 6,000 mark. And I think it's important to note that whether a student goes to school in Lewiston or just lives in Lewiston and goes to school at a tuition school, that's all our enrollment. We are responsible for all of those students. Number two, seniors. It's a fast time for them. They've made decisions on where they're going to go to graduation, where to go after graduation. Some have chosen schools and colleges and many other places. And on this sheet that we're sharing on the screen, you can see the very prestigious schools that our kids have actually, in many cases, turned down for other choices. But they include Ivy League schools, HBCUs, and many others. I think it's a pretty impressive slate of courses, and colleges that students have been accepted at and have chosen. This is just some of them. But what we're doing is we're capturing some of these in video form so we can share the story. I think sometimes in all of the things that happen in our very busy city, we forget that we're sending kids to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, full boats to Bowdoin, high scholarship numbers, kids leaving to play Division I, II, and III sports, and doing other things with their world, from neuroscience to electrical engineers and electricians doing their journeyman work. The picture on the side of this is actually from a drone photo, and trying to connect the theme to the image. The first one was a young person climbing a wall connected to the CLIMB program. And this picture represents that the sky is the limit. And we're hopeful that all these kids will go and do wonderful things and then come back home to make our community continue to be a great place. The third one I mentioned a few times, but again, a big talking point currently, our enrollments have surpassed 6,000 students. That's the highest enrollment at least anyone around me can remember. There may be someone who knows of a different data set from many years ago, but nothing that high that I can recall in my over 20 years here in Lewiston. Um, it's continued to trend upward, and we are continuing to look at other concerns. I guess a good problem to have because so many districts are shrinking and trying to figure out which building to close. We are growing at a rate that we have to plan ahead. And to that end, we have more housing being developed, which will eventually be completed, construction or renovation. And some of those spaces will house families or adults that have children. And they'll come to school here. So we're seeing kids and their families move back to Lewiston for services. And I would argue a great education program. Um, and also, we have new housing that will grow our enrollments. We did purchase a building about a year ago at 287 Main Street, and we have invested some minimal money there at this point to do an assessment to make sure the building is stable and to see what it needs. We've invested in having a crew come in to do some cleaning up of things because it more or less was walked away from during the pandemic years. It stopped being used as a medical building and had to be cleaned up a bit. We are proposing funds in the capital improvement process to get a concept plan for that. It's currently set up very much as a medical office, so you have lots of small offices, lots of bathrooms, lots of kind of mini lab spaces, not real conducive to education, but the building used to be a tire retreading plant, a Buick dealership, nursing school, a medical school, and then ultimately medical offices. So we know it has good structure, has good bones, and it has wide spaces, if you will, the way it's actually constructed, so that it could be suitable for things like classrooms or open spaces for learning. We're also mindful that CDS, which is Child Development Services, is in a transition. The state of Maine Department of Education has worked on this transition, and we will be receiving what is today their responsibility. We'll be receiving students that are connected to that. CDS students being served are pre-K and younger. And these are students that have high levels of need that are identified early. And with the efforts around early interventions, will be responsible for their programming. We anticipate about 100 kids for that. But there's a metric where you estimate if people come to realize they can send their kids to school at the early ages from younger than pre-K, that parents may have new motivations to try to figure out what levels of need their kids have. And so I'm using the number of 175 to project out of new students that could be added to our enrollment in a 24-month cycle. We have to plan for these changes. We have to have spaces ready for them. And so we're taking steps to try to secure funding to renovate 287 Main Street, which could lead to a renovation of the Dingley building to be used as a school again or for other purposes for the district. But we continue to grow, and we want to do our very best to have a space for our kids to call home or school. And I'm going to scroll back to the top and try to hit some highlights again. And I have a couple other just talking points that I'll share out. Just a reminder that wages and benefits, which account for about 71% of our budget, also represent 95% of our increase. Our budget increase overall is 7.497 million. And the wages and salaries connected to income are 7.14. So you can see how we have worked really hard to maintain our staff, be really smart about supplies and limit excess costs in other places. But I will say, I'll be right up front and have it captured on video that I have concerns that if we have something big pop up, like a failing roof or something of that nature, this budget is too narrow to accommodate for anything catastrophic like that. But we have heard the voters, and we went to referendum 3 times last year, trying to come through with a responsible budget that can gain support. I think Lewiston does support its schools. I just think that local property taxpayers have reached a threshold that just needs to slow down. And so we're trying to balance those two needs together and present a budget that we hope will be passed again on May 13th. And voting at that referendum for the school budget is from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Longley. And we're hopeful that you can go and bring a friend and vote. I think my closing message would be a thank you to the team that I work with every day, the school committee and the city council, for what seems to be a lot of support for schools, knowing that we're trying to be responsible with the budget. So thank you for your time. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. Check our website for budget information. Or we'll see you at the May 12th town hall, where we'll have the results of the city vote on May 6th. And answer any questions before the referendum again on May 13th. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.